Welcome back into another episode of the Spaceman 2.0 Phoenix Truth Rising Show, here to help you grow in the knowledge and wisdom of truth, and the truth will set you free. With the best history lesson and spiritual insights on the planet, exposure of the Illuminati's plan of world conquest and control is the death knell to the New World Order. So we're going to get back on into God 2 has a Plan 2000 Divine Plan Volume 2, in where we're going to look more at about the Ring of Fire and the Photon Belt, and understand a little bit more about the spiritual happenings taking place in the world today. So, with that being said, let's get back on into the Divine Plan, Volume 2. Before we get started, I just want to quickly apologize for not having a Phoenix Truth Rising episode for the last few days. Been a little bit busy at a blockchain futures conference. I have some videos up, and that's important to understand that the quantum financial system is coming into effect with this new infrastructure of blockchain technology. It's not financial advice, by the way. This is what's happening. Since 1993, they had the messaging system come into effect in internet that took 3 to 5 business days for a letter to be sent to 3 to 5 seconds. And in the 40s to the 80s, the internet protocols went from the computer protocols went from 80 protocols to 5. Okay, which is basically the TCP/IP, which is a base layer, the FTP, which is to move files, the SMTP, which is for emails, the HTTPS, which is websites, and the www, which ties it all together. And later on in this journal, we'll understand the geometry of www, which is really 666. Now we went from Web 1 and Web 2. Web 1 is information, to Web 2, which is things. You can buy things on the internet, but value isn't settled right away. So with that being said, Web 3 is new protocols for interoperability of the quantum financial system, working with quantum computers along with legacy computers, the traditional financial system working with the new decentralized financial system using blockchain and AI technology. So that's a little bit about it in a nutshell, and I behoove you to research it yourself. So with that being said, if you'd like to see more episodes of the Phoenix Truth Rising Show more often throughout the day, please let me know in the comments down below. If you can handle 2 of these or 3 15 to 20 minute segments a day, really, we do need to get through these. We got about 7 years of books to get through, of journals, of information that lays a foundation, basically a master's degree in university of spiritual insights and the truth of the planet, what's going on politically, and even with wonderful physical, like the physics of the universe, as well as even a lot of other sciences are discussed in these journals, which will blow your mind. So with that being said, let's get back into persistent Earth movements around the Ring of Fire. Reports are the Earth movements are being felt and registered in almost as constant a measure in New York and the full length of the Mississippi River. Remember the preparations of NASA and FEMA for plans for handling tidal waves and rerouting of the Mississippi. The next article comes from a San Antonio, Texas newspaper via the New York Times, Los Angeles. 2 weeks ago, one of the largest earthquakes in California history slammed through the Mojave Desert, leaving 1 person dead, hundreds injured, and scores of scientists astonished and shaken. Astonished because this earthquake did weird things, like setting up earthquakes more than 500 miles to the north, ripping across 4 existing faults to make a single larger fault, and helping give rise to a new tectonic system that is shearing California away from the rest of North America and nudging it toward Alaska. Remember what I said in the last episode about old maps showing that California could have been an island, basically, and they filled it in back then? The Tartarian era of the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, look what happened to them. They destroyed their technology. They had free energy. They had they knew about free energy in the air, and they harnessed it with their architecture. Look up Tartarian architecture. It will blow your mind. And shaken because the nation's most dangerous fault, the San Andreas, just got more dangerous. Having examined their preliminary data, scientists now say the twin earthquakes that struck on June 28, 7.4 upgraded to 7.5 on the Richter scale of ground motion near landers, and a magnitude of 5.6 upgraded to over 6 near Big Bear significantly increased the likelihood that the south part of the San Andreas will soon generate a magnitude of 8 or greater, 10 to 12 earthquake, popularly called the Big One. Precisely how soon, they cannot say. Strange thing is that I am now being denounced, this is HATONN saying, and assaulted because your scientists have placed a photon belt entry to occur right on July 25th, 1992, which has somehow become HATONN's photon belt. May I remind you, please, HATONN has said this is nothing of God's order. The photon belt we expect is a great barrier of energy, photons, and will endure for some 2,000 years to follow. That is not due until early in your next century. Listen up, people. That is not due until early in your next century. Right? Early could be 2100, 2050, 2030. What is the lack of leading ability? What is this lack of reading ability? This is your photon, something or other, and is a lot more deadly than anything God might have in mind. This is your photon, something or other, and is a lot more deadly than anything God might have in mind. Isn't it even strange to see how the Illuminati, the elites, always use what God has in store for us, and they do it first and call it the same thing, and then they distort it, pervert it, and then we miss out on the real thing, the real adventure, and the real truth, and understanding it. Let's get back. Isn't it even stranger that they can pinpoint a photon belt on July 25th and can't predict the big one within years when both are man-caused? 4 years ago, the U.S. Geological Survey estimated the probability of a huge quake striking the southern end of the San Andreas Fault at 60% in 30 years. They have said this for about 40 to 50 years, but in interviews last week, most scientists said they expected to happen much sooner. Most of us have an awful feeling that 30 years is wishful thinking, said Dr. Alan Lynn, director of USGS Seismology Branch in Menlo Park, California. Everyone agrees that Los Angeles and San Bernardino should treat this like a final warning. It's like when you clean up camp. It's time to make that last pass through our cities, homes, and lives and act as if the damn thing will happen tomorrow. Dr. Lucille Jones, a leading expert on the southern San Andreas at the USGS office in Pasadena, California, said, "This is a wake-up call. I think we're closer than any 30 years. It could be 2 years or 5 years or longer, but that doesn't mean people should panic this week." I asked them, "What are you willing to do for the next 2 years? We have a higher hazard." Scientists usually take each other's claims with reserve until they have been reviewed by independent experts and published in a scientific journal. The California seismologists have only just begun to analyze the data from the June 28th earthquakes and have not had time to write any papers. But they at least are taking their results seriously. Scientists at the agency, Jones said, have bolted down bookcases, but put Velcro on computer equipment and double-checked water supplies, batteries, and backup power systems. The southern end of the San Andreas Fault has now ruptured for over 300 years, Jones said. When it does, the shaking will be many times stronger than the Landers earthquake and could last up to 3.5 minutes. The Landers quake lasted 32 seconds. Wow, that's a long earthquake. I've been in one in Manila, in the Philippines. I was in an apartment building about 5-6 stories up, and when it was shaking, wow, it didn't stop for about a minute, and it felt like forever. And the whole thing was shaking, and I was like wondering, what am I going to do? Get out, jump off the balcony into the middle of the pool down below? Like, that's my only option when things start to move? I don't know. Back on into. Such a catastrophic earthquake could devastate cities like San Bernardino, Riverside, and Palm Springs, which are within 20 miles of the San Andreas Fault, said Dr. Thomas Henye, director of the Southern California Earthquake Center at the University of Southern California. But Los Angeles and San Diego, which lie further west, could also sustain serious damage if the shaking lasted 3 minutes. Some older structures on solid soils built before strict building codes were adopted won't be able to handle that much shaking, Henye said. So geologists and seismologists are feeling a sense of urgency as they crawl over the newly ruptured faults to find out what happened and what is likely to happen next. In the meantime, they are trying to solve mysteries about the recent quakes. HATONN. Aha, in the final sentence is the meat of the story. There are many, There are so many mysteries to be solved with absolutely no ideas about how or what happened. Man tampers with Mother Nature, and boy, the sting will come back to give pain almost instantly. Now remember HARP, okay, and chemtrails go together. HARP, H-A-A-R-P, High Auroreolus, or High Altitude Auroreolus Research Project. And also remember how this is used to create the weather and change it. And as well, they can create earthquakes. If you don't believe that, just check out Tom Bearden's Scalar Technology. And he is a wonderful insight onto that, giving us the truth. End quoting. Volcanoes, ring of fire. Activity of various magnitudes, with some ready to erupt and some are erupting right now all along the entire rim of fire, or ring of fire, as many of you refer to the Pacific Circle. And Central America, again, is on the ring of fire. I was in Central America not too long ago, and I saw a volcano just continuously erupt in front of me for over an hour, and I was a few, miles away, but at the same time you see it. And in the morning, there's a bit of ash, sand on your patio there, and you have to sweep it off. And this is normal, gives the soils all their minerals and stuff. But watching it was spectacular meditation as it erupted. And it was called Volcano Fuego. It means fire volcano, which is a good name. There's also a name for a volcano called Volcano Agua. And guess what? About 100 years ago, there was an earthquake, and there was a lake in the top of that volcano, in the pit of it, and it broke, and the water came down the mountain and washed away a city, which is pretty crazy. So imagine, God works in mysterious ways where you can get killed by a volcano with fire and lava, or you can get killed by a volcano from the water. Isn't that just amazing? It's just, nature is just magnificent in its power and abilities to, just take out your life in a second if you're not careful. So may we honor Mother Nature and not mess around with her with HARP. Chemtrails, stop the chemtrails. Advocate to all the Congress and everyone in the political schisms to stop chemtrailing us. And then we have clear days and proper fluffy, nice white clouds, not that misty haze. So please keep your eyes on the skies. Maybe chlorella or colloidal silver will help you. Not health or financial advice, but just check it out. A teaspoon a day of chlorella powder might help detoxify heavy metals and radiation from your body. So volcanoes, ring of fire, activity of various magnitudes, of some ready to erupt and some are erupting right now all along the entire rim of fire, or ring of fire, as many of you refer to the Pacific Circle. Photon belt. Nothing has changed that I can see, except you are already witnessing tit-for-tat games utilizing pulse beams in Russia and then in the U.S. That's what I was just talking about, scalar technology and HARP. The Russians have cosmospheres. They've been up and controlling space. Space is anywhere above your head, basically. Anywhere around your body is space. Will they pull a full null time on you? Well, they have a bit more definitely, since a good portion of the U.S. equipment satellites have been destroyed. Well, they have a bit more difficulty, since a good portion of the U.S. equipment satellites have been destroyed, but there is still planned a show and tell of great magnitude as a full demonstration of power. Why would a Ross Perot drop out of the presidency race? Why would a Ross Perot drop out of the presidency race? Who, in their right mind, would continue such a venture with constant death threats and with no future expectations of being able to change anything, even if he could somehow win? Can Grits win? Probably not, but I can guarantee he would make himself known if he was given as much push as was given Perot. It is strange to note that, with this suggestion, teams tore into the possibilities only to find that, in most instances, the Perot contacts had never heard of anyone named Grits. Let's just read it again, because I think there was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek there. It is strange to note that with this suggestion, teams tore into the possibilities only to find that in most instances, the Perot contacts had never heard of anyone named Grits. While not such shabbily at all, Grits is on the ballot in some 19 or more states already. Any of you still think there is no control of the media? Perhaps, since all were impressed with First Blood 2, Rambo, you should simply run